Yo, what's going on, boys? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to another Steam 2 video. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a build that I was very excited about, and it actually ended up exceeding my expectations now after the update in the Edge of Fate. Today's build is essentially going to be all about grenades, ignitions, radiant, and also constant restoration. With this build, we were basically just walking around throwing a grenade every couple of seconds. It actually ended up being even crazier than I ever imagined. I expected it to be good, just not this good. So if you guys have been looking for a good solar warlock build this season, I think this is going to be it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you do, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel in case you guys are already for some more videos. And now let's get started, and first we gotta start with exotics, and let's start with an exotic piece of armor, which is one that I was very excited about ever since I saw the changes, and I'm sure a lot of you guys were excited about as well. It's the return of the Starfire protocol. The Starfire protocol got some big buffs this season, but the biggest one is definitely not being tied to Empowering Rift any longer. No longer do you have to use selling the Empowering Rift, doing damage and getting kills to get your grenade back. Now all you have to be is Radiant, and as long as you're Radiant, you're basically going to be able to get a bunch of grenade energy for getting kills, or just doing damage with your weapon. And that just change alone made this build so much better. Especially because some of the fragments that we have on the Solar Warlock basically allowing you to have constant restoration and radiant the whole time, so you're always getting tons of ability energy back for your grenade, your melee, your class ability. Basically you spam the abilities over and over again, spamming a bunch of grenades and making a bunch of ignitions. And if that wasn't enough, it is also one of the featured exotics this season, meaning that you get essentially free damage resistance just for putting this armor piece on. So you have all the great things that come with it, plus damage resistance on top of it, essentially for free. Now for the exotic that you want to pair up with the Starfire, you actually have quite a lot of different choices. There's not really one weapon that you need to run with this to make it good. As long as it's a good solar weapon, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. But I decided to pair it up with one of the other weapons that got some buffs, and that's also another one of those featured exotics this season, which is the Tommy's Matchbook. Now, being a featured exotic, it does get that increased damage, so you straight up gotta be doing more damage with this thing. And the weapon itself also get a direct buff to its catalyst. Now when the ignition trigger is active, final blows with this weapon will curious, and also sustained damage will also scorch the target. So it's gonna constantly heal us whenever we get kills with this weapon, as well as constantly spread Scorch, so we can make even more ignitions. This, plus our grenades, plus our melees, basically just means that there's gonna be so many ignitions that sometimes when you're not even trying to make ignitions happen, ignitions just start happening. So I think Tommy's is a fantastic choice to pair up with this build, especially since you get the damage boost as well from ignition trigger. So you get that, plus the Scorch, plus the healing. It just kind of works really well with the build that we got going on today. But if you want to experiment with some of the other feature solar weapons, go for it. It doesn't really have to be a specific one. That's just how good the Starfire protocol is. It can work with any solar weapon. Today we're going to be on pure solar warlock, so we're here in Dawnblade. And for your super, you can go with either Song of Flame or Will of Radiance. It doesn't really matter which one you go with. Both of them are going to be fantastic choices. You know, that's really up to you. For your class ability, I recommend the Phoenix Dive. It gives you a very easy way of healing very quickly. And it's also going to give us a very easy and fast way of constantly proccing the Helion. So we can just always have that up, giving us some extra damage, and Scorch for even more ignitions. For your melee, I'm going to recommend the Incinerator Snap, just because it has a much lower cooldown. So if you do lose your Radiant, you'll probably have the Incinerator Snap ready to go, so you can just restart that process again. A big part of the build is just basically being Radiant, so you want to be Radiant pretty much every time that you're fighting anything. And for your grenade, of course, you want to go with the Fusion Grenade. The build just doesn't work without the Fusion Grenades, so you want to have this on. Now for the aspects, let's start with the simple one. Let's start with Helium. Helium is just going to add a bit more extra damage, a bit more extra Scorch, and ignitions to your build. You basically just want to activate this whenever you see that you're losing it. If you have like a couple seconds, drop down just your Phoenix Dive, you're going to be getting it back really quickly, because every time you get a kill with your grenade, you get some class ability energy back. So don't just hold on to your class ability, use it a lot, and that will always proc the Helium, and this thing is basically always going to be with us, doing some extra damage and ignitions. And the other aspect is going to be Touch of Flame, and this is going to give our fusion grenades a second explosion. So instead of just exploding once, it explodes a second time, applying more scorch stacks as well as doing some more damage. This is gonna make our grenades deadly. This combined with the extra damage that we're gonna have thanks to focusing the grenade stat basically makes our grenades into just mini nukes that go off, and very few things are actually gonna be able to survive them. And if we hit something with 2 grenades, they have to be like a mini boss or a boss to really survive them. Even in things like negative 20, 25, the grenades were still doing some crazy amounts of damage. Now for the fragments, the very first one you want to go with is the Ember of Torches. This will let you get Radiant whenever you hit something with your melee, and this is going to be the main easy way that we're going to be getting Radiant. We walk up to an enemy, hit him with our charged melee, and then after that we're just going to be able to keep it going with our weapons. Next we have the Ember of Mercy. This is going to give us restoration whenever we pick up fire sprites, or whenever we revive a teammate, and most of the time we're going to be using this with the fire sprites, especially if you're playing by yourself in some solo activities. The fire sprites are what's going to get your restoration going. This is going to add a bit more survivability to the build. We actually make fire sprites a lot more than you would expect thanks to the artifact. So we're going to have a bunch of them out there, and every time we pick them up, we immediately gain that restoration. And if we get kills after picking them up, we're going to be able to extend the restoration for a crazy amount of time. You're going to see a lot of times in the gameplay, I'm just having constant restoration, constant radiant, and it just never runs out. Because as long as there's enemies around, and you're still killing things with your grenades or your Tommies, you're never going to run into any issues keeping the buffs up. Next we're going to have Ember of Empyrean, and this is the reason that we never lose our Radiant and Restoration, because as long as we keep getting weapon or ability final blows, it will extend the duration of both Restoration and Radiant. So as long as we're in the front lines fighting enemies, we're basically never going to run into any issues. When it comes to Restoration or Radiant, we're always going to have them on. And for the final fragment, you actually have 2 different choices. One of them is going to be for a bit more survivability, a bit more safety. So if you're new to the build, you may want to start with the Ember of Resolve. This is going to give you healing whenever your grenades kill something. And since we're going to be throwing lots of them, you're just constantly getting healed. That even when you don't have Restoration, you're just constantly healing anyways. But if you feel like you're already comfortable with the build, and you feel like the Restoration is enough to keep you alive, I recommend that you go with the Ember of Searing. And this is going to give you tons of extra melee energy, so you basically are never going to be without melee, as well as constantly create fire sprites. So in a way, it does actually increase your survivability as well, since you're going to have just more fire sprites, it means you have restoration for a lot longer. But it's not going to be instant healing like you can with the grenades on the other fragment, so that's why I recommend that you maybe get comfortable with the other one, and then move on to this one. But in the long run, I feel like this is the better fragment to run, to be constantly spamming abilities and basically always have those buffs up. Now for the mods here, where I don't have all of them unlocked just yet, we're still missing the last column, we pretty much have everything else locked down. So over here for the anti-barrier, you definitely want to have Overload Rapid Fire. That will make it so your auto rifle can actually stun those overloads. And this is going to be good for the Tommies. Fever and Chills is going to be another way that you can get Radiant. Whenever you hit rapid precision hits with your solar weapon, you're going to be able to gain Radiant. Now this is not going to come into play all the time since we are going to be Radiant a lot of time, but it's a nice thing to have just in case we cannot get Radiant, or if we for some reason don't have our melee, we can just hit a couple precision hits and get Radiant that way. Element of Benevolence is going to be pretty good. Every time you give somebody some Radiant, you're essentially going to get back some class ability energy, just so you can spam your class ability even more. When you are playing solo, this is not going to do anything, but whenever you're playing with a team, it's going to come in handy. Elemental Daze is going to be pretty good. Whenever you're just doing a champion with the Tommies, it's essentially going to make a big solar explosion. So just adding some more explosions into the build, like if we don't have enough already. Elemental Coalescence is low-key kind of the MVP of this build as well, because every time that we defeat targets, we have a chance to create an elemental pickup. So this just gives us a couple of extra solar sprites for free, without having to do anything, just by getting kills. You're just gonna sometimes get some extra ones. And then lastly, for this final column, you want to go with Radiant Shrapnel. We're gonna be Radiant pretty much all the time, so you always want to have Radiant Shrapnel. So every time that you defeat some Scorch targets, which is gonna be all the time, since our Tommy Souls can Scorch, they're gonna release some more solar projectiles that are gonna scorch more targets and just lead to more ignitions. If we don't have somehow enough ad clear, then this is gonna add more ad clear, and use more ignitions. And then the last one you want to go with is going to be Elemental Overdrive. Every time you pick up an Elemental pickup, like all the solar sprites we're making, your weapon is going to have increased damage as long as it matches that Elemental pickup. So our Tummies is going to be doing even more damage just for free, essentially. So these two right here are really the big ones that are going to add so much more to the build. So you definitely want to get to the end and get these as quickly as possible. Now when it comes to the armor, I know it's a little bit early since people are still like leveling up. I myself am still leveling up. So our armor stats are kind of like all over the place. But the main thing that you definitely want to prioritize with this build is the grenade stat. Having more grenade stat is going to give you more grenade energy as well as increasing your grenade damage. So you essentially just want to max this out as much as you can. If you can get it to 200, go for it. But even just having it a bit over the 100 mark is still going to be pretty good. Especially for right now, like I said, that everyone's stats are kind of like all over the place. Now we're quickly going to run through the mods, just so you can see like what we're running. For your helmet, you want to have Ashet's 2 assets, as well as Harmonic Siphon, so you can make some orbs with your Tummies. Also, get a bit of extra super energy every time that you get a kill with your grenade. And since we're going to be getting so many, we're getting tons and tons of super energy. Used so we can super even more. And then you want to make sure that you have a finder, either special or heavy, whatever you're using more. Because right now they are very, very important after the update. If you don't have one, you're going to run into some ammo issues. For your gauntlets, you want to go Harmonic Loader, because one thing that Tommy doesn't have is reload speed. So you want to reload it a little faster, go with Harmonic Loader. Firepower will make it so every time that we get a kill with our grenade, we also make orbs, so that's pretty nice. And then Momentum Transfer will make it so every time we do damage with a grenade, it reduces our melee cooldown. Just to always make sure that we have a melee. For your chest pieces, just where you have your resistances, nothing really special here, just those. For your boots, we basically use one Absolution and Orbs Restoration, so every time they pick up orbs, we get some more abilities back. And lastly, for the class item, you want Reaper, so you can get some orbs after using your class ability, and since we're going to be using it a lot, it's just some extra orbs. And then you want Outreach, and I would probably say it actually, the second one, to be Powerful Friends, so you can pick up any orbs that are around the area just very easily. And with that, that's pretty much going to be the end of the build. You pretty much have everything to really go in there and make a bunch of explosions. The one thing you want to keep in mind with this build is that you want to make yourself radiant as quickly as possible. First enemy you see, just hit it with your power melee, get that radiant, and after that, you can just start throwing a bunch of grenades, doing a bunch of ignitions, and do not forget to spam your class ability to keep the healing up, as well as just constantly keep getting the orbs for Reaper, as well as all the health that you're going to be getting from the Phoenix style. It is a very fun build, and I'm sure that you guys are going to love it. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thank you all for watching today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care everyone, have a good rest of your day. Peace.